Hello and welcome to another episode of The Business of Software. And today we're going to talk about reification. And this is the idea that we take an abstract thing and we think it has some meaning, making something some kind of abstract idea, and then we utilize that abstract idea. But over some time, we begin to think of the abstract idea as the thing to look at, right? That becomes the primary focus. So reification. Let's go. So the first thing is, Agile is meant to be customer focused or customer centric. Okay, so we have stories. We have a product owner. We are now creating a gap between the customer. When I was busy with waterfall projects, I would sometimes, not always, but sometimes communicate directly with a customer. Now, we don't really have that. What we have is user stories. What we have is some idea of estimating that story, and then we can pull that card and we can go off and do it. Now, why do we have that approach in a customer-centric methodology? Surely, if you're customer-centric, it's more getting on the phone, picking up a Teams call, getting into a Zoom and saying, hey, Mr. Customer, what about that? Oh, you don't like that. What about this? Oh, you don't like that. Okay, so that would be something that you would want to do. But instead, because of volume, and perhaps because a lot of these things come from or promoted by edge cases, right? Google, Amazon, and so on, those are edge cases. For the most of us, we're sitting in smaller products, smaller teams, smaller levels of scalability, and so on. And not all the same patterns work on that side and this side, right? They are edge cases. Now, for us, if we have a bunch of customers, let's say we've got 10 large companies that use our software. Wouldn't it be prudent to set up a meeting with them, watch them use the product, get that sort of feedback, rather than having user stories, for example? So a user story, I'm not saying is not valuable. There's a core idea there. We need to translate what the customer wants into some kind of story that we understand. Don't put implementation details, right? That's a common mistake, right? People go and say, we need a button to export this. No, leave that out. Just say what the mentality of the user is and what they want to accomplish, or what that overriding objective is, so that we can understand. They mustn't dictate how we implement. However, that's not as good as talking to a customer. Right? The second thing is to actually put that on a card and say, this is a ticket, right? The ticket becomes the focus. Now, how do I know that it's become the focus? In any team, if you find that a card is going through some kind of process, like this is, there's some rule, right, around the card. Don't do that with the card. Put it over here, right? Mark the card orange if that happens. Mark it red if it's a blocker. Mark it green when it's finished, right? Or your definition of done, right? It's ticked. Okay. How do I know whether a card is being reified, right? How do I know that we're focusing on cards? Because you're going to see estimations on that card. You're going to see things like color coding. You're going to see rules for a story, right? You're going to see the focus is the card. And that is a bad sign, because you're not focused on the customer, you're not focused on the story, you're not focused on purely doing the best you can with the best kinds of design to facilitate that for business, for now and for the future. Instead, you're looking at the user wants to export data, and you're going, oh, I can do that, right? And so now, oh, that's a requirement. Oh, bang, 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 bang. I've got my requirement. Refactor into some kind of dependency injection. I've done my job, right? Well, that's not what is important. What's important is that particular requirement in line with where we're going as a vision for the product, for example, right? Is the design that we're using, can it fit in over here? Can it fit in over there? What am I going to do with this design? Am I going to scaffold it quickly Am I going to embed it with the very, very best tooling? Like, at what level should that be? And so, like, we're all in it thinking about cards, and we're satisfying those cards, and we're ticking the cards. And that is a form of reification, because we're not thinking of the customer. Now, let's think about what that means in terms of, thinking about cards. Well, if you think about cards, another sign would be that you have a metric attached to that card. So somebody would be saying, oh, you've done 10 cards this week, right? You did 14 last week, right? Somebody's going to say total cards, right? The total amount of cards that we've done, over these following sprints is this and this, and here's a graph showing, right, all the card counts and those that have been ticked and those that have been carried over and things like that, right? And so that's another example of reification, where you're saying that the card matters and I must calculate the card numbers, and then I must get some value out of seeing some trend in that. And it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense, right? So when you measure a card, right, you're going to be in this position where you will simply add more cards, right? So for example, let's say you have 100 cards in one sprint, 102 cards in the next sprint, 103 cards. You're thinking, well, this is quite interesting. We're going up. This means we're somehow more productive. Like, forget the fact that that's not even true in the first place, right? Let's just jump over that and say, what if I took this task and I divided it up into 3, right? Let's see if I can slice this. I can. Right, now, look at this. We've now got 290 cards complete in the 4th sprint. We're doing better. Are you? Are you? Right? No. Right? What you've done is taken the same task and just divided it up. You've just divvied the same total into fractions and achieved, a higher fraction count. But it equals the same thing, the same count. And likewise, if you're putting story points on something, right? This is gamification, right? This is Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. And this is because what you're going to do is gamify it. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to tick these cards. How many cards have you got ticked per week? Well, let me tick off a few more this week. It'll look good, right? Let me slice up stories into smaller amounts, because then the total is better, right? Estimations, right? Story points. When you're planning, you might subconsciously even, nobody's bad, nobody's an evil villain here. You might just say, I need some padding. I really need some time on this one. I'm going to say 8. It's probably a 4. I'm going to go 8. I need some padding in my life. It's too monotonous. I need to take a break, get a few more coffees this week. I'm tired. I've got a holiday coming up in 10 days. That's good, but I've got to get from now to there, right? Oh, geez, that's an 8, right? Why are you going to do that? Because you're gaming the system a bit, right? And there is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of, right? It's a subconscious, it's a human condition. But we're going to reify all these things, and then we're going to gamify it, right? That's what's going to happen. And the unfortunate thing is that there are actually groups of people who think that gamification is a good thing. Right? So they actually think, well, you're working, we'll have on a board, some kind of big screen. We're going to say, the current leader is, right? The person who's done the most of X cards is this person. They're on the top. These are the number of tickets. I used to work in a company with like 50, 60 people on telephones answering customer calls, and we'd have a development team in the back, and there was a system between us where the ticket would be escalated, and then one of us would get to pick it up and write a bit of comment on it, right? So, and then we would feed back into the customer relations area. Right? And so those support people were given the task of, on the wall, they were given the task of improving productivity by dealing successfully with more tickets. And what happened? Obviously, what happened? They had more tickets, more successful customers. They just had it. The fact that they were going to measure that became truth, right? Because people know how to gamify things. So when you measure card estimates, people gear themselves to give higher estimates. And when you look at done, people mark cards as done. When you have the number of tests as part of some quality metric, you will have greater quality because you'll have greater tests, and people will do that. It's inevitable. So what are we doing, right? We are creating story points, which is an abstraction of time, which is an abstraction already. So we've got two abstractions. Then we're worrying about story points, this higher abstraction, and it's meant to somehow be better, right? The thing is, as human beings, 8 will just mean 2 days to us. We'll just, that's how we will think, right? Or 4, or whatever it might be. And why that's terrible is as you go from team to team, that idea will be different. And now you suddenly, okay, but that aside. So you're sitting with an abstraction that is not reality. Then you're sitting with a card, which is not reality. You're sitting with a story, which is not reality. All hearsay. It's all hearsay. This is a product owner writing it. This is a planning designed by committee, so to speak, estimate by committee, right? Where everybody's throwing out numbers. So that's not real either. And then you're sitting being marked on whether you're doing something or not within a time frame demarcated by the committee, right? That's not the way that a customer-centric, agile sort of process or development team is supposed to work. Instead, what you need is a series of experts in the team. This is a UI expert. This is a user experience expert. This is a technical expert in let's say, databases. This is a technical expert in network. You need experts because experts gain trust, right? They can say, look, I know what I'm doing here. And you can say, right, I trust you. And in trusting them, you're listening to them, but they're listening to you because you're a UI expert. And that facilitates teamwork and trust. And the input that comes in is from real people. Right? If you're really talking with a customer sitting next to you saying, yeah, I've never liked that. I've never liked the way that works. Oh, why? Why don't you like that? Well, when you click there, you can't click the thing behind. Like it always pops up and there's this extra second or so delay. I know it's nothing serious, but it just annoys me. Oh, well, it didn't have to work like that. I could just place it over there. Oh, can you? Yeah, I can. Now that is when you get real improvement because it's something real communicating with you, right? Now, I'm a supporter of asynchronous communication as a default, but in cases like this where you need hands-on, when you're developing the team from the beginning, when you need to talk to customers, nothing beats synchronous. Right? But don't think that I'm all for synchronous. I actually think asynchronous is the default, but we'll talk about that in another video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell if you'd like to be notified of videos as they're uploaded. I'm trying to upload at least daily at the moment. We'll see how long that goes for. I've got 20 videos in the pipeline, so that's another 20 coming your way. Thanks for watching.